Hello, amazing souls. I am Amber McCrae, and welcome to my podcast. I'm an educator, private certified holistic nutritionist, and herbal healer, mama, grandma, wifey, overachiever, and recovering perfectionist, and also a BFF who helps exhausted women connect to themselves and others. Welcome. When you are able to really see another person, that's true compassion. And extending yourself in compassion to another human being changes the nature of our relationships, our communities, and our world. Oprah Winfrey. Okay, amazing souls, we are going to start a new series called What Happened to You? And I believe that this is so big because it ties in both the emotionally focused therapy and the holistic nutrition that I am so passionate about and wanting to share with all of you. So in this new series, What Happened to You, we're going to be talking about some taboo topics. So this is your trigger warning. Some of these topics may include sex, drugs, trauma, addictions, and even suicide. And I know these topics can be really uncomfortable to talk about. I just really want to normalize how natural these topics are and how we all think about every single one of them. If you've experienced trauma in any of these areas and you've tried to be open and vulnerable with people about these topics, you may have been met with judgment, guilt, shame, abandonment, which honestly just further solidifies our trauma in these areas, which makes it harder for us to be able to find a safe place to actually talk about and work through these traumas. And many people who have experienced trauma or abuse in these areas suffer from many diagnoses such as bipolar, chronic depression, anxiety, and a list of other diagnoses. And oftentimes, a lot of these traumas happen in childhood. And these adults have suppressed a lot of what they've went through. Even if they've acknowledged the trauma that they've been through, I don't think that they really understand the effect that it continues to play on their body and their mind. And so when they go to the doctor for anxiety or depression or even suicide, they are met with medications, severe medications, and even hospitalization, which can be further damaging in a person's psyche. Oftentimes when we're driving and we may see a druggie on the side of the road, is your first thought, what's wrong with them? Why are they doing that? Why are they living their life like that? Or is it, what happened to them? What happened to them that caused them to be in this situation that they're in now? I don't know anybody suffering from addiction of any kind or depression, anxiety, who wants to be there, who wants that for their life. Even people who have attempted or even thought about suicide, I firmly believe it's not because that they don't want to be here, it's just they don't want to be here when they feel like this. And I just really wonder what it would be like for our medical community to, instead of what's wrong with you, if we dug deeper and started with what happened to you before we just shove medications and diagnosis out to each individual. Now, I want to be very clear. I am not against Western medicine or, depression medicine. What I'm saying is that I believe that we should begin at a different point. I so often see medical professionals starting at the symptoms and not at the root. The symptom is the anxiety and the depression, but the root is the fear and sadness where those come from. And if we could just spend a little bit more time really understanding each person individually and their whole self and how they got to where they are and why they're feeling these things, we might be able to slow down the process, get to the root cause, and bring lasting healing that may not include such drastic measures as pharmaceuticals and isolated institutions. With so many of my clients that come who are dealing with depression or anxiety, we start with their story. And oftentimes, I'm told that they've never ever told their story or what has happened to them. And not even from a connection or emotional standpoint, but just from a physiological standpoint, I can't imagine the havoc that holding all of this in is doing to a person's body. And we'll talk more about that in our next podcast about how, holding this in and trauma, how that affects your body on a biological level, on a cellular level. But just to end this episode, I just want to reiterate that talking about really tough topics, such as the ones I mentioned in the beginning, open up opportunities for us to not feel so alone in these really big things that happen to us. Feeling alone and isolated in these big thoughts and big emotions that are going on within us can cause just as much havoc as the actual trauma itself. And I fully understand how scary it can be to be vulnerable and talk about these topics, or to even have somebody talk to you about these topics. Oftentimes, if we are the listeners, then we may feel responsible for the outcome of what they're telling us, or that we have a desire to fix it for them so that they'll feel better. And in reality, they just need somebody to hear them, to see them right where they are, and fixing is actually the last thing that they need at all. Learning to truly validate and actively listen to people is one of the biggest, most magical things I have ever learned and experienced in this crazy world. One of the biggest lessons I have learned as a coach and as a parent, as a friend, as a mother, a daughter, has been it is not my job to fix people into healing, but it is my job to love people and allow them to be able to heal. So remember, connection over perfection. If somebody's coming to you with a tough topic and you're not really sure what to say, just listen and offer a hug. One of the biggest gifts you can give somebody who's going through something tough is the freedom to be broken and to not judge them, but just to love them right where they are. I look forward to talking to you guys in the next episode, and remember, connection over perfection.